how my fire works as I follow my Father's works. Make it to the kingdom and it's gonna have a lot of perks. Our time on earth, our people feel a lot of hurt. Stuck in our sins, when we gon' realize that's not gonna work. The clock works, but the hourglass moves slow. Don't waste your time and watch your every move, bro. Go plant a seed and pray the Lord to make it grow. Get at that darkness and go and let your light show. You far from home, just follow the path of Chef Bro. This life's a test, just make sure you do your best, bro. Invest in the kingdom and try to build your escrow. The eagle's watching, so go protect your nest, bro. The devil's lurking and he coming for your next soul. Put on your armor and don't forget how your chest glow. The water's moving and I'm caught up in the current flow. Your life's confusing cause you caught up with these current hoes.
I'm just
First verse, cut the bass, send up the treble. No longer bass, we excelling to a higher level. I hate to bust your bubble, but this level trouble doubles. Remove your pride and just remember to stay humble. Don't cry for spilt milk or how the cookie crumbles. Make sure to mouth the flow so you don't slip or stumble. Don't let the stress you under stop your hunger. And you can't skip the line, wait for the Lord to call your number. Be patient cause your tribulations only make you stronger. Get stuck in folly, then we only have to wait here longer. The world is yours if you prepare to go and conquer. God wrote the script and for this act he get an Oscar. I turn the corner, I really hope that I ain't lost you. Think about your stubborn mind and everything it cost you. The Lord's spirit overflowing, make sure your sins washed up. And if we stick to unity, ain't nothing that can stop us.
I'm just
how my fire works as I follow my Father's works. Make it to the kingdom and it's gonna have a lot of perks. Our time on earth, our people feel a lot of hurt. Stuck in our sins, when we gon' realize that's not gonna work. The clock works, but the hourglass moves slow. Don't waste your time and watch your every move, bro. Go plant a seed and pray the Lord to make it grow. Get at that darkness and go and let your light show. You far from home, just follow the path of Chef Bro. This life's a test, just make sure you do your best, bro. Invest in the kingdom and try to build your escrow. The eagle's watching, so go protect your nest, bro. The devil's lurking and he coming for your next soul. Put on your armor and don't forget how your chest glow. The water's moving and I'm caught up in the current flow. Your life's confusing cause you caught up with these current hoes.
I'm just
First verse, cut the bass, send up the treble. No longer bass, we excelling to a higher level. I hate to bust your bubble, but this level trouble doubles. Remove your pride and just remember to stay humble. Don't cry for spilt milk or how the cookie crumbles. Make sure to mouth the flow so you don't slip or stumble. Don't let the stress you under stop your hunger. And you can't skip the line, wait for the Lord to call your number. Be patient cause your tribulations only make you stronger. Get stuck in folly, then we only have to wait here longer. The world is yours if you prepare to go and conquer. God wrote the script and for this act he get an Oscar. I turn the corner, I really hope that I ain't lost you. Think about your stubborn mind and everything it cost you. The Lord's spirit overflowing, make sure your sins washed up. And if we stick to unity, ain't nothing that can stop us.
I'm just
Father's works. Make it to the kingdom and it's gonna have a lot of perks. Our time on earth, our people feel a lot of hurt. Stuck in our sins when we gon' realize that's not gonna work. The clock works, but the hourglass moves slow. Don't waste your time and watch your every move, bro. Go plant a seed and pray the Lord to make it grow. Get at that darkness and go and let your light show. You far from home, just follow the path of Chef Road. This life's a test, just make sure you do your best, bro. Invest in the kingdom and try to build your escrow. The eagle's watching, so go protect your nest, bro. The devil's lurking and he coming for your next soul. Put on your armor and don't forget how your chest glow. The water's moving and I'm caught up in the current flow. Your life's confusing cause you caught up with these current hoes.
I'm just wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way.
Couldn't hear the first verse, cut the bass and up the treble. No longer bass, we excelling to a higher level. I hate to bust your bubble, but this level trouble doubles. Remove your pride and just remember to stay humble. Don't cry for spilt milk or how the cookie crumbles. Make sure the mouth to flow so you don't slip or stumble. Don't let the stress you under stop your hunger. And you can't skip the line, wait for the Lord to call your number. Be patient cause your tribulations only make you stronger. Get stuck in folly, then we only have to wait here longer. The world is yours if you prepare to go and conquer. God wrote the script and for this act he get an Oscar. I turn the corner, I really hope that I ain't lost you. Think about your stubborn mind and everything it cost you. The Lord's spirit overflowing, make sure your sins washed up. And if we stick to unity, ain't nothing that can stop us.
I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way.
Look how my fire works as I follow my Father's works. Make it to the kingdom and it's gonna have a lot of perks. Our time on earth, our people feel a lot of hurt. Stuck in our sins when we gon' realize that's not gon' work. The clock works, but the hourglass moves slow. Don't waste your time and watch your every move, bro. Go plant a seed and pray the Lord to make it grow. Get at that darkness and go and let your light show. You far from home, just follow the path of Chef Road. This life's a test, just make sure you do your best, bro. Invest in the kingdom and try to build your escrow. The eagle's watching, so go protect your nest, bro. The devil's lurking and he coming for your next soul. Put on your armor and don't forget how your chest glow. The water's moving and I'm caught up in the current flow. Your life's confusing cause you caught up with these current hoes.
I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah, I'm on my way.
Couldn't hear the first verse, cut the bass and up the treble. No longer bass, we excelling to a higher level. I hate to bust your bubble, but this level trouble doubles. Remove your pride and just remember to stay humble. Don't cry for spilt milk or how the cookie crumbles. Make sure the mouth to flow so you don't slip or stumble. Don't let the stress you under stop your hunger. And you can't skip the line, wait for the Lord to call your number. Be patient cause your tribulations only make you stronger. Get stuck in folly, then we only have to wait here longer. The world is yours if you prepare to go and conquer. God wrote the script and for this act he get an Oscar. I turn the corner, I really hope that I ain't lost you. Think about your stubborn mind and everything it cost you. The Lord's spirit overflowing, make sure your sins washed up. And if we stick to unity, ain't nothing that can stop us.
I'm just running on this road in the moon, wishing that I could go faster. All the stars around me, yeah,
Cause I follow my father's works. Make it to the kingdom and it's gonna have a lot of perks. Our time on earth, our people feel a lot of hurt. Stuck in our sins when we gon' realize that's not gonna work. The clock works, but the hourglass moves slow. Don't waste your time. Hey, shalom, 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 Israel, shalom, shalom. Thank y'all all for joining me. It's Deacon ShamaAriyah, and it's time for Iron Sharpens Iron Fridays. I pray y'all all have had a wonderful week. I pray that your week wasn't too stressful. If it was, I hope that when we had a discussion, that you benefit from it, and you feel better, and I'm happy because we got something special. We got Elder Yakin, aka the smoothest brother in Israel. He's helping out on the tech side of things today. So all praises. Shalom, Elder. Thank you for helping out. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praise. I pray you're doing well. Got my brother Shevis on here. Got my brother Yakidin. Sis Tiana. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Brother Ariel. Shalom, shalom. Brothers, hop on the Zoom. We're about to discuss why celebrate your oppressors' independence? As some of y'all know, the 4th of July is coming up, and some of y'all watching this may be getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July. Some of y'all watching this may know somebody who's getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July. So my question is, why celebrate your oppressors' independence? All right, so that's what we're going to go into, all right? So the topics of discussion for today are going to be, do us and our forefathers owe anything towards the founding of the United States? Do we owe anything towards the founding of this country? Now, I'm not talking about, how this country was built on our backs of our forefathers, our grandfathers and grandmothers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual founding of America as we know it today. Do we owe anything to that? Another one is, how can you have a positive viewpoint of a country that profited off the death and enslavement of your ancestors? So that's what we're going to talk about. How can a person have a positive viewpoint of a country that profited off of the death and enslavement of their ancestors? And then number 3, were we as a people given the same promise of freedom, justice as American citizens? Were we given the same promise of freedom and justice as American citizens? So that's the things we're going to talk about in relation to the 4th of July. All right? So y'all get your favorite food, get your favorite beverage. Husbands, grab your wives. Wives, grab your husbands. Children, if you of age, get your parents, because it's time for Iron Sharpens Iron Fridays, all right? So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start in Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 17, all right? Again, share this. Brothers, hop on the Zoom. So we can get ready to have this discussion, all right? So this is Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. So the same way you use iron to sharpen iron is the same way a man or a woman can sharpen the countenance, the spirit, the mind of their friend, all right? As we go through things in this captivity, as we go through things in our life, we should be able to be there for one another and give each other words of encouragement, give each other advice, give each other the scriptures to help build each other up. So if you ask a brother or sister, how their day was, and I'm not saying like you're just asking it to check a box, but you asking because you really care and you really want to know, and then they tell you, hey, maybe my day wasn't so great. Maybe my week wasn't so great. You should be able to give them some words of encouragement, some advice, some scriptural advice to help build them up. I had to make that clear, Yakin, because a lot of times we'll give advice and it's not necessarily the best advice. It's not necessarily scriptural advice. And that can make, people's life even worse. So we want to, first and foremost, make sure we turn to the scriptures and allow the Lord to guide us and guide that person and help build them up. All right? So, Yakin, how you doing? I know you're trying to, get the floor of things, but I pray you're doing well, brother. I got to ask you, like I ask everybody, how you doing?
Hey, man, all praise to the Most High. I'm doing very, very well. Glad to be with you for another ISI, man. It's been a minute, been a long time since I've been doing this.
Yep.
So as you said, trying to get myself back acclimated, but man, it's fun to be back here and to hear the word come out, man. This is a great topic, man. It needs to be talked about for sure.
All praise. Well, I'm glad you're doing very, very well. That's great to hear. And again, as y'all can see, I'm smiling. Like I said, me and the elder way back when we started this Iron Sharpens Iron thing. So
he was right there with me, and we were, it was a great thing. So to have him right here doing it, all praises to the Most High, all praises.
All praises.
And I didn't even know. This was like a surprise to me. Hey, I'm broadcasting tonight. I'm like, oh, okay, all praises. So, that's why, you can see the excitement in my face. So, as far as myself, things have been kind of rough. Israel definitely need prayers, but still breathing, still living, still able to edify and be there, for the people. So definitely send up prayers for me, Israel, if you can. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. We got brothers on the Zoom.
Let's see what we got. Oh, we got Shevis on the Zoom.
Got Shevis on the Zoom.
Shevis is
Okay,
on
all
the
praises,
Zoom.
all praises. All right, at least we got one brother.
Hey, brothers, join the Zoom.
Join the Zoom, brothers.
conversation.
Join the Zoom. All right, we're going to have just a discussion about the 4th of July. I want to hear some of your perspectives. I want to hear maybe some, sometimes maybe you did it in the past. What was your thought process behind it? If you never celebrated it before, we're going to really have a discussion. This class ain't going to be too long, probably about an hour, but we're going to just go through it. We're going to talk about it, all right? And the reason why I want y'all to get on here, because y'all got to be able to tell your friends and family, hey, why are you celebrating the 4th of July? What's the reason behind it, all right? So let's get into it. All around America, many families are preparing to celebrate the 4th of July. So all around America right now, many people, they got off of work today, and they're like, yes, come Sunday, oh, we about to get it in. So what kind of things are they going to do on the 4th of July? Some people getting ready for a barbecue. They getting ready to say, I got to get the coals. I got to get, the ribs. I got to get the chicken. I got to get everything so I can throw it on the grill so I can barbecue for the 4th of July. People will look and be like, Deacon Shema, what's wrong with barbecuing? Ain't nothing wrong with barbecuing. Nothing wrong with barbecuing. All right, but it depends when you're doing it and what you're doing it for. All right. Some people, they're like, okay, yeah, I got the barbecue going, but my thing is I want to pop the fireworks. I can't wait till it gets nighttime so I can pop the fireworks. So you got people right now going to the fireworks stand. They about to spend their last little dollars on these high price fireworks so they can pop some fireworks for the independence, the 4th of July. Some people, they getting ready for the 4th of July parade. They want to go sit out in that heat. They praying that it don't rain. Please don't rain. I want to go sit in this parade so I can see the floats, so I can see, all the banners. I can see everybody in their red, white, and blue, right? That's what they're getting ready. And then some people, they say, hey, I just get to spend time with my family. We get to spend time with family, and we get to enjoy this day, right? We get to enjoy this day. That's what a lot of people's mindset is. But the thing I want y'all to understand, Israel, many of those people that are getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July, they weren't even free in America July 4th, 1776. They were not even free. So these people that are getting ready to barbecue, pop fireworks, parades, family get together, the whole outfits that match each other. You've seen that, right, Yakin? You got brothers got the fits that match, and they like, oh, they got the red, white, and blue.
Oh man, yeah, I've seen it, man. It's a sight to see, and it's really sad. We laugh and we joke about it, but it's also really, really sad to see how destroyed our people are, man.
Absolutely.
Because it's very simple to understand that we wasn't free at that time, but we got to keep up with the Joneses, man. We got to do what our oppressor does. Got to.
But I don't even think a lot of people understand that. Me and you, Yakin, we understand that because, we can say we woke. We done the research. We know something, right? Because I'm going to be honest. When I was celebrating 4th of July, I didn't even think about slaves. I didn't think about July 4th, 1776. I wasn't even thinking about, at that time, that's when America was founded. As a child, young coming up, you don't think about those things. It may have been on a test in history class, but you don't think about that on that day. Like, oh, July 4th, 1776. Where were we at? Were we enslaved? You don't think about these things. You're just like, hey, we about to pop fireworks. That's why I listed everything above. You got the barbecues, you got the fireworks, you got the parades, you got the family get-togethers. It all sounds nice. People will say, yeah, I can barbecue. Kids like fireworks. People like parades. And people love family. So they'll overlook the fact that history says you were enslaved at this time. You are the descendants of those that were in the transatlantic slave trade. And we got to sit back and think, well, dang, if that's the case, why am I celebrating this holiday, right? So one thing we got to understand about the transatlantic slave trade and the 13 colonies, because that's what the 4th of July is about. It's about the independence of the 13 colonies. So if we're going to really start talking about this quote unquote holiday, you got to start knowing what are the roots of these things. You know, when it comes to Christmas, find out what the root is. Thanksgiving, find out what the root is. Find out St. Patrick's Day. What's some other ones? April Fool's Day, right? Valentine's Day. Find out the deeper meaning of what was the original establishment of these quote unquote holidays. What was it? So when you find out, okay, these are about the 13 colonies separating themselves from Britain, declaring their independence. Okay, you'll say, well, that's cool. Okay, they wanted to break off from a section of their own people to be independent. But the thing about you, Black, Latin, and Native American man, is their independence led to your downfall. Because the 13 colonies, they profited heavily off the transatlantic slave trade. All right, so that's what we're going to get into. All right, so when we think about the time from 1776 all the way to 1865, because that's another big number that our people, you know, will reverence. 1865. So that's roughly, if I'm not mistaken, 1865 to 1619, because we're going to talk about 1619 being a major part when a lot of the slave trade was going on. Now we understand colonialism happened, you know, in the early 1500s, but 1619 is when it really got heavy as far as moving slaves back and forth to the Americas. All right. So from 1619 to 1865, that's roughly 246 years that we were enslaved. 246 years from that time, right? Now, when we think about July 4th, 1776, that's about 86 years. So from July 1776 to 1865 was 86 years. All right. So 86 years. So you'll say, well, okay, if we're going to celebrate the independence of America in July 4th, 1776, but you, black man, were not free until 1865, that means you were still in slavery for another 86 years. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the average lifespan of a man, a black man, what, 80 years?
Yep.
That's if you're healthy, right?
Right.
That's if you're healthy. If you're not healthy, you may be lucky to get 60 years. I remember the episode of Blackish when Pops turned 60, and it was a big deal. He was like, this birthday means more than any other birthday because I'm 60 now. I made it to be 60 years old. So if you were born on July 5th, 1776, Shaquille, that means you were still enslaved for another 86 years while this nation had their independence. Let alone if you had been in your 40s, 50s, or 60s in July 1776, you died still in slavery. So that's something we got to really think about. These numbers mean something. These numbers mean something, all right? So let's look at this. Let's talk about what the 4th of July is. Let's talk about what the 4th of July is. Independence Day. You got that Wikipedia link? So before I get that, you say I got Chevis on? Any other brothers joined?
Yeah, we got a couple brothers. Let's see. We got Chevis. We got Yakiden is coming in right now.
All praises, all praises.
Let's see. We had a couple other brothers join.
All right, so let me
ahead.
talk to those brothers real quick. Let me talk to those brothers. Before we get into what is the 4th of July, I just want to get their perspective of what they think it is. They know any history about it. I know Chevis is a very, intellectual brother. So let me hear his his take on it. What he was taught. I want to hear what you were taught from a very young age.
And Chevis, make sure you turn your cameras on. Turn off the sound and the background if you can. And go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can y'all hear me?
You cut it up a little.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can y'all hear me? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, we can hear you. All right. Appreciate the opportunity. So I grew up with a Black Panther for a grandmother. Appreciate the opportunity. So I grew up with a Black Panther.
Yeah, turn that sound down.
And my grandmother kind of always played the balance of two things. She would tell me, well, baby, look, this ain't for us because our ancestors was not for it. But you know, family. But on the day of, she would always remind me of our ancestors. So that's also for that foolish holiday in November, that foolish holiday in October, that foolish holiday in February. She would always use it as a balance. Like, okay, well, you go to school, so, you know, enjoy yourself, baby, but let me remind you what this is about. I was 5 years old in 1992 when she introduced me to Frederick Douglass. She also introduced me to Eldridge Cleaver.
Yep.
And she read to me Brother Frederick's popular transcript.
Wait, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. Hey, this brother's in the spirit. He's in the spirit.
What is the 4th of July
Yep.
to a slave? So since 1992, even though in some of my years in my teen years, I still participated in this foolish holiday, July 4th, I never forgot my grandmother being very exact about the struggles of our ancestors here in this land they call America. So it was always critical with me. Like, wow, why Black folks so patriotic on this day? Wow, why so many Black folks proud to be American? Wow. Why so many families letting their kids hold these explosive fireworks? Ain't that unsafe? We can't, Mama, I can't watch The Simpsons. I can't listen to Juvenile. Why my auntie letting all of us with these fireworks? She don't want us with no guns. So even from 1992, 93, when I started coming to this understanding of, you know, who we really were in America, it stayed on my spirit until, you know, Uzziah shared the truth with me that this holiday was never a holy day and it was never for us. So I'm proud to say in 10 years in the truth, you know, I've made so many mistakes, but one of them ain't celebrating this foolish boule coon holiday. And that's why I stand on it. I appreciate the space.
All praises. Well said, brother. And I like the fact, I hope y'all are listening, is with the fact that he had somebody that was able to groom him and teach him from a young age that, hey, this ain't for our people. You know, understand what, you know, what this is really about. And what he brought up about Frederick Douglass, I'm going to bring that up because that's something a lot of people may not have known about what Frederick Douglass actually said about celebrating the 4th of July. But I like the fact that he was able to tell us that and that it always stuck with him. And he said, hey, and all the other things I did, I made sure that I didn't celebrate this coon holiday because that's what it is. That's what it is. Again, like I said, there's pictures of people getting dressed up in American flags. You sitting there, you going hard for America, but America was not going hard for you in 1776 when they was establishing their independence. All right. So let's go ahead and get that Wikipedia about Independence Day. And we're just going to read through it. Some of y'all may know what Independence Day is and some of you may not. All right. Independence Day, the 4th of July or July 4th is a federal holiday in the United States commemorating the Declaration of Independence of the United States on July 4th, 1776. The Continental Congress declared that the 13 American colonies were no longer subject and subordinate to the monarch of Britain, King George III. So the 4th of July is about the independence of the original 13 colonies of America and how they were no longer under the monarch of Britain, King George. And they were no longer under the king, meaning they separated themselves from the king of Britain. They don't want to no longer follow his rule. They want to be able to do their own thing. All right. So I want you to pay close attention to what I'm saying. When they were under Britain, they had certain laws that they had to follow based on what the king established. So they say, "Yo, let's go over to this land. We got these colonies set up, right? These colonies set up because the British, some of the people that sent them over here. When they got over here, they say, whoa, this land is plenteous. There's people over here already that have been conquered. I don't want to follow this king no more. I want to do my own thing. So we got to declare our independence. All right, so we're going to continue to read on. We're no longer free. Declared that the 13 colonies were no longer subject and subordinate to the monarch of Britain, King George III, and were now united, free, and independent states. The Congress had voted to declare independence 2 days earlier on July 2nd, but it was not declared until July 4th. So it originally got they voted for it 2 days earlier on July 2nd, but they didn't declare it until the 4th. All right. Independence Day is commonly associated with fireworks, parades, barbecues, carnivals, fairs, picnics, concerts, baseball games, family reunions. Y'all know black people, family reunion. Y'all love that. July 4th be every black person's family reunion. We're going to do it on the 4th. You got a day off of work. Y'all can come together, do the family reunion, right? Political speeches and ceremonies, in addition to various other public and private events celebrating the history, government, and traditions of the United States. So that right there should be a buzz for everybody on here. This holiday celebrates the history, the government, the traditions of the United States. They're celebrating their government, meaning the laws that they established for their people, which we're going to get into later. It's talking about their history, the wars that they fought, the things that they had to go through, the struggles that they had to go through to get over here, the people that they had to conquer so they could use to help establish their colonies and build up their colonies. They're celebrating all that on this day. So it's foolish for us to get out there with them streamers, with them deadly fireworks, as our brother Chevy said. You 5 years old and you got these fireworks in your hand, but your aunties is letting you do it, all to celebrate the history, the government, and the traditions of a country that hates you, right? Independence Day is a national day of the United States, all right? So basically it's a day when you want to boil it down, it's a day when the 13 colonies were no longer under British rule. That's what they're celebrating, all right? So now let's talk a bit about the 13 colonies, because you may say, well, what's wrong with the 13 colonies, Deacon Shema? It's an establishment of America, the great country we live in right now, right? You're able to go to work. You're able to barbecue freely. I could question that, because there's some places you could go in America, you can't even barbecue freely because Karen out there calling the police on you. These Negroes is out here barbecuing. Be mindful. All right. So we're going to talk about the 13 colonies. All right. Yep. Go back up. Go back down. Keep going. Yeah, you can stop right there. All right. All right. So we're going to list the 13 colonies. Or hold on. Anybody on the Zoom, Yakita, do you know the 13 colonies? And brothers, if you don't know, you just don't know. Don't be ashamed. Can anybody name the 13 colonies? Or any of them? You ain't got to name them all, and don't feel bad if you can't. Well, just name some of them. Just name some of them. Take a shot at it. Just take a shot at it.
All right. You got Maine, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New Hampshire, excuse me. Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, I believe too. I think that's it. In Maine, I think that's it.
All right, so we're going to give him what? What'd you say, Yakin? 7? About 7. About 7, okay. Brother got about 7. About 7, okay. And again, don't feel ashamed if you don't know them all, you know. But we're going to list them, all right? So you got Connecticut, you got Delaware, you got Georgia, you got Maryland, you got Massachusetts, which includes Maine, you got New Jersey, you got New York, you got New Hampshire, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Virginia colony. All right. You got a Virginia colony. So those are the 13 original colonies. All right. Now these colonies, they each had different objectives. All right. Some of these colonies were established for economic trade. You know, they were big on economics. Some of the colonies were established based on religion. Some of the colonies were established based on education. They had different functions for each colony. All right. As they're trying to build up America, they had to have these places have different, different directions. All right. So let's talk about Georgia a little bit. All right. So we're going to talk about the colony in Georgia. All right. The southern colonies, and this can represent a lot of the southern colonies. The southern colonies had the largest slave populations who worked on the plantations. All right. So the southern colonies, they had large slave populations that worked on plantations, as a lot of you know, right? Those plantations grew cotton, tobacco, rice, sugar, indigo, which is a purple dye, and other crops. So that was the main thing. All right. They were about growing different things that they could sell, which would help with their economy. All right. So if they were going to do this, they were going to need what? They're going to need slaves. All right. So they were going to need slaves. So in these colonies, they had all these slaves. So that's one thing our people must know. These 13 colonies that wanted so bad to be away from British rule, to be able to do their own thing, once they did that, but they had people that were under their rule, which were your ancestors. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Yes, Native Americans, they got y'all first. They had to come over here and take y'all land. They had to colonize y'all. So they're using you on these plantations to grow the cotton, to grow the tobacco, to grow the rice, to grow the sugar, right? To grow all these things. So you got to sit back and say, well, if I was doing these things on a plantation, why should I be rejoicing? Because 1776, July 4th, they didn't set me free. They didn't say, yeah, we're free from Britain. We're going to let y'all go ahead and do y'all's own thing and we'll figure it out from here. No. They said, we free from Britain, but you make sure you got that cotton. You make sure that tobacco is still right. You make sure you're getting that sugar. You make sure you're making that indigo dye. You make sure you keep doing these things because what? They got to build themselves up. They're still trying to establish themselves. All right. So you could do research on each of the 13 colonies. We could click on it. Let me see. I'm just going to click on one. You can stay where you at if you don't got it. Let's talk a little bit about New Hampshire. All right. So it's coastal. It has hills, mountains, rivers, rocky soil. But the thing about that, where they were at in New Hampshire, is they had no religious freedom. In New Hampshire, they had no religious freedom. So the religion that was set up by the Puritans is what they had to follow. So the thing, Yakin, is in these various colonies, like I said, yes, they were about freedoms. But if you were in this certain area, like New Hampshire, the Puritans ran that place. So they weren't tolerating anybody celebrating anything else or worshiping anything else but what they put forth. So they say, hey, if you're looking for another religion, you need to go to another one of the 13 colonies. You can't be here. So what do you think that means? Those of you on the Zoom and those of you on the chat, what do you think that means for those slaves that were on these plantations in these various places? If you were in New Hampshire and they had a plantation and they were Puritans, what do you think your religion was at that time? Sheva's got his hand raised. What you got, Shevis?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, you good.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So I believe, because I put myself in it, right? I believe a slave in New Hampshire or Connecticut during this weekend was whipped for saying, well, why I can't join. Slave was told to shut up, get back in the field, nigga. I feel like on this weekend, women were raped and abused, our women, for the simple point of celebration until Esau. I also believe that it caused dysfunction between our family members because the kids would probably see white kids having all this fun, and they would probably say to mama or daddy, y'all have me go and feed them or go help them. I can't go play with them. And then it would bring down the family structure because mama might be like, maybe for a little bit. Daddy might feel like maybe for a little bit. But in their spirit, they knew better. I think it would cause conflict between brothers. Brother might say, well, shoot, man, let's just keep it secret and do this or do that. And then the other brother might be like, well, wait, man, you know them slave patrols out here, man. Hold on 1 second. It caused dysfunction between brothers. So I think it was a very critical period in those first years of where this celebration, this holiday was observed and kept. I don't think it was happiness in our people at all. Because again, they would probably say, well, why not me? Why would I celebrate this holiday with them, but I can't sit at the same table as them? And then the slave masters probably use this weekend to treat our people a little nicer than usual. You know, give them a little more pig. Maybe let them sit on the porch stoop and eat rather than in the back house. So I think it was just a real blinding, conflicting holiday weekend and day on July 4th. So, you know, that's how I see it.
I like that perspective that he gave because he hit it from both angles, Yakin. He said, hey, maybe at first it was so rigorous and so hard on us because what? Yeah, they celebrating their independence, but then, yeah, go get me one of those winches and take over here and do what I got to do to her. Then, like he said, you got the perspective of, oh, that looks nice. Why I can't do that? Nah, you can't do that. We that ain't for us. Now the mama got to sit there and explain that to their child, right? So basically, what Shevis was saying is you got different perspectives even now. You got some people that know that this ain't for us, and we get treated and abused. But then think about this. Remember what he said. Maybe they let him eat a little bit more that day. Maybe they let him take some time off of work that day, right? Because what? They're gonna need the people to be able to celebrate, to fix up the area so they can celebrate. So we got to make sure y'all back at the house or y'all in the field away from where we at. Because what? You got to have overseers, right? Overseers want to celebrate their holiday too. So the overseers need a day off. So what? They're gonna get the slaves a day off. So again, in the mindset of our people, oh, we getting a day off. Oh, this must be a great holiday for us because our oppressors celebrate his independence and we get a day off. That's how our mindset is. But again, what I was going into was the religion in these various areas. So if you was a Puritan, or if that area was for the Puritans, and that was the only religion they allowed at that time in that area, you as a slave, that was going to be your religion. They were going to force you to convert to that religion. So again, we got to be mindful of why some of our family are Protestants, why they're Catholics, why they're Baptists. You know, why is that? What area did you grow up in? Oh, if your parents grew up in New Hampshire, they probably was Puritans or whatever the case may be. And that's where you got that religion from. And then it was passed down from generation to generation to generation. All right. The economics and trade was concentrated in manufacturing and focused on town life and industries such as shipbuilding and manufacturing export of rum. So again, a reason why I'm bringing these things out, because even if you go back to your history as far as what your great grandfather did for a living, if he grew up in this area where they were building ships, and he was one of the slaves that was helped building the ships, more than likely he was going to take that skill that he learned and pass it down to his son and his son and his son, pass it down the line. Oh, we come from a line of shipbuilders. Well, maybe because you was living in New Hampshire. These are the things we got to think about. All right. So let's move on. I just wanted to show y'all that. Y'all can Google the 13 colonies and, find out the various history behind each colony. It's kind of interesting. But I want to get to the point that Chev has made about Frederick Douglass and some key words that Frederick Douglass said. He was born a slave, lived his life on a plantation, and he had some very keen words about the 4th of July. And if this is a person that grew up around that time and could speak on it, we should be taking heed to what was said. All right. So these are the words of Frederick Douglass. He said this in 1852. All right. So this was years later, but this is what Frederick Douglass said in 1852. All right. This is July 5th, 1852. All right. So he delivered a speech asking a question. What to the slave is the 4th of July? See, I should have titled it that. That's what I should have titled the class. What to the slave is the 4th of July? But nobody probably would have clicked on that because they ain't slaves in their mind. I'm not a slave, so why I need to watch that? That ain't got nothing to do with me. But that's what he titled it. What to a slave is the 4th of July? Douglass said that the fathers of the nation were great statesmen and that the values expressed in the Declaration of Independence were saving principles and the rainbow of your nation's destiny. So he said, hey, they were great statesmen. What they said in the Declaration of Independence, it has saving principles. Okay, there's some good principles in it, right? And it was about their nation's destiny. Key word, your nation's destiny, meaning the other people, their nation's destiny. He's not claiming that as himself. He said it's about your nation's destiny, the statesmen, the people that were having the saving principles about their people. Everything that they said in the Declaration of Independence was about saving their people. Everything they said about in the Declaration of Independence was about their nation's destiny, where they saw their nation going. All right.
1852. All right.
Nevertheless, he maintained that slaves owed nothing to and had no positive feelings towards the founding of the United States. So Frederick Douglass right here, he said slaves, they already said they didn't owe anything to the founding of the United States, and they had no positive feelings towards the founding of the United States. So they weren't vibing with it. They weren't cool with it. Like Chevy said, when that 4th of July came along, they weren't like, oh, look at the fireworks. Oh, let's celebrate the independence at first. They weren't cool with it. We breaking our backs. Y'all done came over here and stole everything from us. Y'all done took us from our the land we were in before. We had our own countries established, our own kingdoms established. Y'all took us over there from the west coast of Africa and brought us over here. We ain't be happy about your independence. All right. He maintained that the slaves owed nothing to and had no positive feelings towards the founding of the United States. He faulted America and especially the northern churches for utter hypocrisy and betrayal of those values and maintaining the institution of slavery. So he blamed America. He faulted America, right? And the churches. That's why I brought up these different religions that were allowed to be celebrated in these colonies. They had churches established. And in these churches, they still upholded slavery. Yeah, you're going to become a Puritan. You're going to become a Protestant, but you're still a slave. They can read you the Bible and, talk about all the good things you're going to get in the kingdom of heaven and stuff, but you still a slave. You still at the bottom. You still beneath them. So he's saying you're going to uphold, you're a hypocrite. You talk about your freedom from Britain, but then you got these people over here still enslaved. That's hypocritical. All right. While referring to the celebrations of the day, Independence Day in the United States the day before, the speech explores the constitutional and value-based arguments against the continued existence of slavery in the United States. So he talked about the continued existence in the slavery of the United States. How can you talk about freedom, but there's still slavery going on in the United States? Douglass orates that the positive statements about American values such as liberty, citizenship, and freedom were an offense to the enslaved population of the United States because of their lack of freedom. So you're going to talk about liberty in the Declaration of Independence, but these people that's picking your tobacco, they ain't got no liberty. Meaning I don't have liberty to go where I want to go and just stop working when I want to stop working. No, we had to work up from sun up to sundown. We had to have a pass if we were going to travel from here to there. If you had children, you wouldn't necessarily be able to keep your children because what? Your children may be sold to another plantation. Your children may have to live in a whole nother house where the mammy lives at, where the woman that's taking care of the children lives at. They had different things set up like that. So even Frederick Douglass himself said he didn't get to see his mother that often because he had to live with his grandmother where she took care of the children. Could you imagine living life like that, Yakin? Well, you knew who your mother was, but you may have seen her every once in a blue moon at night, if that.
Nah, I mean, and that just goes back to that trauma, every time we talk about these type of things, I always go back to the making of the slave, you know what I mean? And reading that book where it just talks about how it's just generational trauma that we have over and over again, because that brother who missed his mother, now he's affected by it. Then he treats his children a certain way because, because of what he went through. And then it's just generational trauma over and over again until we get to 2021 and we wonder why we the way we are.
Same trauma. So he talked about liberty. He talked about citizenship. Make sure you write these things down. Citizenship. A lot of us think we have citizenship. Well, now you got citizenship, right, Yakin? Because, you're a citizen of America. You're born here. And
that's what they say.
That's what they say. I'm glad you made that point. That's what they say. But let's talk about way back during Frederick Douglass's time and even before. Citizenship. There was a big distinction between who was a citizen and who wasn't a citizen. So, but they talked about citizenship in the Declaration of Independence. Freedom. Certain people have freedom. Other people didn't have freedom. So how, if you're these people that are free in these 13 colonies, but I'm working under you, I don't have freedom. I can't go where I want to go. I can't practice the religion I want to practice. Because the thing about the Edomites, so-called white man, is if they were living in New Hampshire and they wanted to move, they could just move. All right, I ain't with the Puritan religion. I'm going to move somewhere else. But you as a slave, you stuck wherever they put you at. So it wasn't like, I could just move and go where I want to go and celebrate the religion I want to celebrate, work the job I want to work, and eat the food I want to eat. No, you had to deal with what you had to deal with. Whatever they told you to do is what you had to do. All right. So he said they were an offense to the enslaved population of the United States because of their lack of freedom, liberty, and citizenship. As well, Douglass referred not only to the captivity of enslaved people, but to the merciless exploitation and the cruelty and torture that the slaves were subject to in the United States. All right. So think about these things. He talked about the torture, the exploitation, and the cruelty. These are the things we got to think about. So when you see the fireworks on Sunday and they popping and you can't sleep at night, you got to wake up and think about the cruelty. Don't wake up and be like, man, I wish I could go back to the fireworks stand. I wish I could be at the barbecue. I wish I could be at the parade. No, you should be thinking, man, these people were cruel to my people. They exploited my people, right? They tortured our people, all at the expense of their freedom. All at the expense of them being able to establish something where they could do what they want to do.
And that's why they throw those gifts out there to us. That's why, that July 4th is not just, I'm celebrating our freedom. It's the stuff that you just mentioned, the barbecues, the partying, the this, the that. They throw those things out there as a smokescreen to then cloud our judgment. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, I wanna enjoy this with them instead of really thinking about why July 4th is actually here.
Absolutely. So you had R.L. Heath and D.A. Weimer. They called this topic the paradox of the positive because it highlights how something positive and meant to be positive can also exclude individuals. So again, you'll look at the positives of them establishing their colonies, being broken away from, British monarch rule, being able to do what they want to do and start fresh, right? You'll think about that some positive. But then it excludes a certain group of people because, again, we're not citizens. We weren't considered citizens. So the laws that they established were not set up for us. Think about that, Israel. Think about that. The laws that were established at that time were not there to benefit us because what? We were considered property. You were 3/5 a man. You were considered, less than cattle. So they weren't creating laws for the black man. They weren't creating laws for the Native American man and the Hispanic man. They weren't creating laws for y'all. All right. Douglass said that the fathers of the nation. Nope, we read that already. All right. So you think you think you're free and you have something to celebrate. All right. Let's talk about it. We got to think about during slavery and the Jim Crow era, how we were hunted in the streets, and the same still holds true today in America. You think you're free and you think you got freedom, but during slavery and the Jim Crow era, we were hunted down in the streets the same way we are now. Same way. So let's go to Lamentations chapter 4, verse 18. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 18. This has happened to us a lot throughout history. Let's talk about Lamentations. So Lamentations chapter 4, verse 18. They hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heavens. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. So this shows you right now, in the time of slavery, if you was to run away, what are they going to do? They're going to send the slave catchers after you. And they're going to pursue you to the ends of the earth. They're going to go from one end of the country to the other end of the country trying to find them. If y'all watch that series, I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's called The Underground Railroad. It's a new Underground Railroad series. And they had what is a slave. She ended up running away, her and her boyfriend. They were on a plantation. He was trying to get her to run away. So they ended up running away. They had a cruel master. The master ended up chasing them all the way to a whole bunch of other cities, some of these colonies. Pennsylvania, they actually ended up going to Pennsylvania, I think it was in Pennsylvania. And they ended up getting caught in Pennsylvania. She ended up getting caught in Pennsylvania. But the whole point is they will hunt your steps. They're not going to just let you go free. They're going to do whatever they can. All right? So you cannot go on your streets. Same thing they did during the Jim Crow era. Okay, maybe you had a little bit more moving around freedom, but if you got caught, without a work pass, you ain't got your work pass, they could arrest you and send you right back into slavery because you're supposed to be working. If you was a black man, you're supposed to have some kind of job. You're supposed to be putting forth some kind of work. And if you didn't have that work pass to show that you work, you could go to jail. Or you wasn't supposed to be moving at this particular time in this particular area. You could be arrested for that. You could be hung, you could be lynched, you could be killed for that. And the law was set up to where, okay, yeah, they'll say lynch mobs were illegal, Yakin, but nobody was prosecuting them. They were taking the law into their own hands. If you did something, you got an accusation, you looked at a white woman, you said something to a white man, they could just go get you from your house, take you, lynch you, justice was served. Or say you did go to court, Yakin, and they say, okay, you're not guilty. But they felt, no, he is guilty. They could take you and lynch you. Or you waiting for your trial, Yakin, and they say, you know what? Let's just take him out of jail. They know the sheriff. And it's not like today where you go into the Austin Police Department and there's a bunch of police in there and you got to check in. No. Hey, what's up, Bob? How you doing? Where's that nigga that talked to Susie? Oh, he over there in the cell. Can you open the cell for me? You know I ain't supposed to do that. Come on now. Much I did for you and your wife. All right. Open the cell, take you before you know it, you hung.
Yep. And the same thing goes on right now. Yep. It just goes on in a different manner. You know what I mean? And that's what we got to be mindful of. Is that they're constantly. The thing is that when you make the laws, the loopholes for the laws. You
drop a bomb on
how
that.
to navigate through the laws. You know what I mean? And when you don't create the laws, when you're just subject to the laws, then you don't have a good understanding of it. You know what I mean? And most of us do not have a good understanding of Esau's legal system. You know what I mean? And shouts out to brothers Chevis, brothers Malkia, the brothers that study those type of things, to be able to educate us in relation to those laws. But yeah, if you're Esau, you create those laws, you know exactly how to navigate through them. You know all the loopholes.
Yeah, great point. And again, that's why I want y'all to remember. God dang it. Sorry about that. That's why I want you to remember the establishment of the 13 colonies. It was so they could create their own laws. And again, if they're creating those laws while you're in slavery, those laws are not there to benefit you. And that's why we're in the position we're in today. Like you said, we don't know the actual meaning of the law. We don't know the language of law because there is a language of law. There's a specific type of way you got to speak it, There's a specific type of way you got to write certain things. This really gets extensive, and the average person doesn't understand that. You know, if you get a document and your name is in all caps, what does that mean versus if only the first letters are capitalized? It means different things in the eyes of the law, but the average person don't know that. All right, so these are things we got to be able to learn. All right, so when we think about the oppression, how they hunted our steps, let's remember those who have lost their lives by the hand of their oppressors in America. So when you think upon these people that I'm about to list, every 4th of July, you got to remember these people lost their life in America, but we're celebrating the independence of this country. I wish this country would have never got established. I wish this country never would have got no independence. I wish those 13 colonies would have been destroyed from the beginning, because it leads to our continued oppression, and it led to the loss of the lives that I'm about to read. You have Mike Brown killed at the hands of Darren Wilson. Darren Wilson's of the nation of Edom. He will profess to celebrate the 4th of July. Those are his people. But he killed Mike Brown from the nation of Israel. Hunted his steps. Right? Tamir Rice, young Tamir Rice, gunned down playing in the land of liberty, right? You got freedom to play with toy guns. You got freedom to play in your front yard. But then what happens? You get unjustly killed, murdered, because they hunt your steps. It's in a different lens, because you got to think. Put yourself back in times of slavery. Put yourself back in a time of Jim Crow. If a young boy like Tamir Rice would have still been playing outside, and some Edomite comes by and says, "Oh, let's get him and string him up," I feel like lynching somebody today. The only difference now is they got a badge and a gun. They're protected by the laws that they've been established, right? So Tamir Rice killed by Timothy Lechman, right? Eric Garner killed by Daniel Palantino. Eric Garner out in front of a store gets choked to death. He shouldn't have to have suffered that death. He shouldn't have had to go through that. But he had to go through it, and he died. But then there's some of our people that are going to go out on Sunday and celebrate the independence of this country, that set up laws and gave power to these type of people to abuse that power on the Israelites. You got Ahmaud Arbery just jogging, right? Jogging in the neighborhood. You should have the freedom and liberty to do that, right? Under the Declaration of Independence, Yaquin. I should be able to go into a neighborhood, and even if the house is under construction, I should be able to go into the house and just look around, right?
Absolutely.
But no, you got somebody like Gregory and Travis McMichael that take it into their own hands to gun this young man down on camera. Why? Because they're emboldened, because this country was established for them to have certain freedoms and certain rights to do whatever they want to do and not feel like they're going to suffer any persecution or any prosecution.
White privilege.
White privilege. But again, these are the names you got to be remembering in your mindset when your grandmother gets ready to celebrate the 4th of July, when your uncle, your cousin gets ready to celebrate the 4th of July. Say, no, think about Ahmaud Arbery. Think about Breonna Taylor. Gunned down in her own house. So we can say the other ones, they were outside. Maybe they were outside. When you go outside of your house, you're a little bit more susceptible to what's going to happen to you, right? But Yaquin, Chevis, Yakiden, we should be able to be safe in our own homes, right? No. Breonna Taylor's gunned down by Jonathan Mattingly and other officers. And then they lie and say, well, it was because of this and because of that, and this what happened and this what happened. No, I thought we were citizens. I thought there's certain rights as a citizen you have that, you know, where's the warrant? Well, we're serving a no-knock warrant. Okay, well, if that's the case, did you have to come in blasting? No accountability. You got Sandra Bland. A routine traffic stop leads to her death in the Waller County Jail? Nah, that goes back to what I was saying, Yaquin, how you could be arrested and sit into the jail and then never make it home to your family. And then what did they say? Oh, it was suicide. George Floyd, one of the most recent, killed by Derek Chauvin. Horrible death, painful death, another death caught on camera. But these people, because they feel like they're emboldened, they have that privilege, they could put their knee on your neck because you stole this or you stole that or you have a record. Well, I thought I had a certain, based on the Declaration of Independence, I thought I was a citizen. I had certain rights. I thought I heard certain liberties. I thought there was a certain level of justice, meaning you're innocent until proven guilty. No, not with the black man, not with the Native American man, not with the Latin man. You're guilty until you prove your innocence. And one thing my father always taught me is that when it comes to the police, they act as the judge, jury, and executioner at that moment. Now, according to the law, they're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to go to see a judge. But because they know their way around the law, I feared for my life at this time. He was struggling. He was resisting arrest. They can put you to death right there. Does that feel like equality? Does that feel like justice in America? Does that feel like something you should be celebrating? Absolutely not. So those are more recent. Those are in our lifetime, brothers and sisters that are living now. But let's talk about a few that were before us. Who knows Emmett Till? Killed by Roy Bryant. Taken out of his uncle's house in the middle of the night and killed, mutilated, strangled, shot. Horrible death for a young boy that never got to see his parents again. Have y'all heard about George Stinney? Young 14-year-old boy executed, falsely accused of killing 2 Edomite girls. Just saw him in passing. Check this out, y'all, King. Just sees him in passing. They have a conversation with him. Say, hey, we're going up such and such, to the lake or whatever. He's going home. And because he was the last person to see these 2 alive, he's instantly accused of murdering them, throwing them in the lake. 14 years old, executed by electrocution. Not given a proper trial. Not given proper representation. Not given a proper voice. At this time, Yakin, his family wasn't even allowed in the courtroom. Blacks weren't even allowed in the courtroom. He had to be in that courtroom by himself. So these are the names you got to think on when you think about the independence of your oppressors. Why are you celebrating it? All right? Those things should pop into your mind. All right, so let's go to Zechariah chapter 11 and verse 5. All right, so if this country was founded upon equality and justice for all, why is it that countless of our people are murdered and no one is held accountable? We're supposed to have liberty and justice for all, but we're murdered and nobody's held accountable. So again, one thing that I did when I first came into this truth, when it came to Thanksgiving, I fasted on Thanksgiving. I just fasted on Thanksgiving to give honor and show respect to the Native Americans for what they had to go through. So what are we going to do to say, you know what, this holiday that they're about to celebrate is wicked and is built upon the torture and the oppression of our people? Zechariah chapter 11 verse 5. What are you going to do to show honor? Sheva said his grandmother would always bring it to his remembrance, which was a great thing. But what are we going to teach our children to do? So let's go to Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Because these things have been happening to us all throughout history. All right? This ain't the only captivity that this has happened to us in. But it's the most relevant right now because we all living through it. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. So we have people that possess us, took us in slavery, colonized us. They kill us and they hold themselves not guilty. Why are they able to do that? Because what? They established the laws. They set those things up. So they know a way around it. They know to put this 14-year-old boy in this courtroom with no representation. I already got him to sign a confession that I coerced him into saying. So all I got to do is show this to the jury that are of his peers, because you don't have a bunch of Negroes in there. You got a bunch of white people in there. They already have a bias towards him. So then they see this, and then, the lawyers are very cunning. They know how to talk. And before you know it, guilty. Right? Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich. And their own shepherds pity them not. So they profited off your slavery. They're rich. If your slavery would not have been used to help those 13 colonies, they would not be where they at. Ain't that right, Yakin? When you're trying to establish something, right? Like the church, right? You need workers.
Absolutely.
Preferably willing workers.
Willing workers. Yep.
Willing workers makes things go a lot smoother.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you got those willing workers that's willing to push forth things, everything can move smooth.
Yep.
Right? But what happens when you got just a couple of people trying to do the work? Is things gonna get off the ground?
Oh, nah, not at all. You got to have willing workers to be able to really establish something.
Really establish something, right?
So if you talking about America, yeah, you got to have somebody that's willing to get some things done in order for you to actually establish something as quote unquote great as America.
Right. But America was like, yeah, I hear the willing worker thing.
Right.
They had a few willing workers, but then they were like, nah, let's go get some unwilling workers and just make them do what we want them to do.
Absolutely.
So they went and got slaves and made them do what they wanted them to do to build it up.
Yep.
But without those slaves, they wouldn't be where they at. So we got to remember that. Something about we got to understand about your favorite Edomite, favorite so-called white man. In this country, he's always had a never-ending hatred for blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Name me anybody on the chat or on the Zoom. Name me one time where a white man loved the black, Hispanics, and Native Americans and said treated them as his equals. You're going to hear crickets because that's never happened in the time that America has been established. They've never treated you as their equals. They may say that you're equal, but they've never treated you as equal because they don't see you as equal. Ezekiel 35 and verse 5. Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5.
And you know what's crazy? Like, you know, when you talk about not being equal, you know, you'll see things like George Floyd happen, right? And and you know, you'll see it on Facebook and things like that. And you'll see our oppressor blaming the victim for whatever reason. It'll be like, oh, well, he looked at him wrong, or he, you know, did this or he did that. He's got priors. You know what I mean? They'll do that all the time. But then you'll see an animal, right?
Right.
An actual animal, a dog or something, get looked at wrong. And they'll be like, oh, that's poor Sparky. You know what I mean? Like they'll have like the utmost, you know, they'll just be so, you know, man, you know, sympathetic, right? You know, for an actual animal. Right. You know, look what they did to Mike Vick, you know what I'm saying, with the dog fighting and all that. To this day, they still can't stand that dude. Anytime he appears anywhere, that's the first thing they bring up. You know what I mean? So it's like they literally have more sympathy, you know, towards animals than they do us.
That's because they've always looked at us beneath animals.
Absolutely.
As cattle, that's what you were looked at as, you know? And if you kill a police dog, you're going to get more time than somebody that if they killed you.
Yep.
Just a police dog. Your natural reaction when something's biting you is to try to get it off of you. You mess around and break that dog neck in the struggle, you might get life in prison. You're going to get a lot of numbers tacked on. And it just shows you where they think about you. But again, we don't think about these things when the barbecues is happening, the parties is happening, the fireworks is popping off. We don't think about these things. And we got to get back to thinking about these things, all right? Ezekiel chapter 35 and verse 5. Ezekiel chapter 35 and verse 5. And again, brothers, if y'all got some commentary you want to put in there, feel free. We're supposed to be having a dialogue. Ezekiel 35 verse 35. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of thy sword in the time of their calamity, in the time of their iniquity had an end. So Esau, when you read in the Bible, the so-called white man, he's called Esau, the Edomites. Right here in Ezekiel is saying they've had a perpetual hatred, meaning that's been a never-ending hatred for us. They had a hatred way back when, Yakin, when we was coming out of Israel, and we just wanted to pass through their land. They didn't want to let us go through their land. We said we weren't going to touch nothing. We weren't going to eat nothing. We weren't going to do nothing. Esau was like, nah, y'all can't come through here. They've always had a perpetual hatred. When we at our lowest point, that's when they want to kick us. Okay, even when our iniquity had an end, when we stopped being in the midst of sin, they still want to come against us. You see that, Yakin? Like, there's a point where, okay, God uses them as his sword. Okay, if they in iniquity, cool. They don't want to listen to me, go. But when they have their iniquity is at an end and you still got hatred towards them, it's something wrong with you. That ain't right. And that's why God has indignation towards them. That's why God has a perpetual hatred towards them, because of the way they treat the children of Israel. They continue to do that. You could be just doing whatever. You're doing good, Yakin. But because they see your skin, because they know your bloodline, they know you better than them, they're going to come against you. So, understanding that this nation has always had a hatred towards us, why celebrate their independence? The 13 colonies were founded upon colonization. Brothers, get ready. I got some questions for you. Let's get the definition of colonization. All right, we're just going to go to the Google, straight Google definition of what colonization is, because it was established off of colonization. So all y'all that was like, you know how they used to say, Yakin, I got Indian in my family. Every sister want to claim she got Indian in her family. Okay, if that's the case, then out of respect for your Native American family, you shouldn't be celebrating the 4th of July because it's based on the colonization of your family members. But you think it was cool because they told you that lie about the Pilgrims coming over here, how that was, and how the first Thanksgiving dinner was, and you accepted that and think, oh, it was a party, it was cool. They got along, they helped them. They was giving up their land for beads and beans and stuff. That's a lie. Remember, that's why history is called history, because it's his story. The person that's on top gets to tell their version of it. That's why when we read the Bible and it brings out the true history of how things were, people get like, whoa, that can't be true. You're lying. That's not true. Well, we got facts to prove it. And they don't believe the prophecies that's going to come to pass, that he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. But it's going to come to pass, and you're going to see one day. But the definition of colonization from Google is the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. So Christopher Columbus or whoever, they told you, and there was nobody over here. No, there were people over here. The Native Americans were over here already. And they weren't just over here living as savages. They had things established. When they came over here, the colonizers came over here and said that they had gold and diamonds. The kids were playing with gold and diamonds like marbles. Like, these things were normal to them. So it wasn't like, ooh, it was like, hey, we're just playing with these things like normal. We had things established. Like, they'll show them in the loincloth, Yakin. Like, ooh, look how they was looking with the little, feather in their hair. No, they had actual garments on. They had royal gold. They had it all. But they'll have you to believe something else.
Yeah, when you see those pictures when they didn't have anything on, that was after the fact. Mm-hmm. That was after they had already stripped them of those diamonds and their garments, their wonderful garments. So, yeah, that was after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, if there was nothing over here for them for when Christopher Columbus and the conquistadors came over here, they would have left and went somewhere else. They didn't know this land like that. So if there's no resources or nothing over here, why are you going to try to put yourself in danger? The average colonizer could only live a year, if that. Most of them died when they came over here because they didn't know the land. They didn't know what they could eat. They didn't know that. So they had to betray the Native Americans, try to get, in cool with them so they could learn the land. It talks about that in the book Black Indians. But then they deceived them, as so-called white men always does, and overcame them. All right? So let's look at colonism in Wikipedia. All right? A little bit more in-depth definition. All right? Colonism is a practice or policy of control by one people or power over the people of areas. So when you're doing colonialism, that's when one people use their power over another people in a specific area. So I'm a person of power and I want to go over here to this country. I'm going to use and assert my authority and my power over this people, right? It says often establishing colonies. So when they come over there, they're going to establish colonies. Why? Because now we want to take over your land. So right off the bat, right there, that's why I went into the whole 13 colonies. I could have just said 4th of July was about, the establishment of America. And that kind of would have went over your heads and it wouldn't have sounded so bad. But when you understand that it was about the original 13 colonies, those colonies were set up by colonization. The British sent them over here. When they got over here, they wanted to separate from Britain. Separated from them because they had colonized y'all already. And now we're going to do our own thing. We're going to use these people that are here to establish our economic system, to establish our schools, all these different things, establish our government. We're going to use it for all those purposes. Through colonism. Often by establishing colonies, and generally with the aim of economic dominance. So they wanted economic dominance. They wanted that money. They wanted the resources. In the process of colonization, colonizers may impose their religion. That's why I said in these various colonies, whatever religion they were celebrating in those colonies, that's what you were forced to celebrate. That's what you were forced to worship. That's what you were forced to practice. So again, that's why you're a Protestant. That's why you're Episcopalian. That's why you a Puritan. That's why you a Baptist, because they forced these things upon you. That's why a lot of Native Americans are Catholics. They forced these things upon you through colonization. It says, may impose their religion, their language. Oh, you want to speak the Hebrew language? No, you're going to speak Spanish. Nope, you're going to speak English. I don't want you speaking your Native American language no more. When you read about the Trail of Tears, watch the documentary if you haven't read it. Watched it. It talked about how they would send the children off to boarding schools. And when the children were in boarding schools and they would come back from the boarding schools, they couldn't speak the language with their parents no more because they forced them to speak another language. When you disconnect the people from their language, they can't communicate properly anymore.
That sounds very similar to Nehemiah 13.
Nehemiah 13?
Yeah, where yeah, you had him lay hands on our people, because they were mixing with the other nations. And so what would happen was the children would come out confused.
Absolutely.
And they would start speaking the language of their mother, which was another nation rather than their father, who was an Israelite. So same things happen in modern day.
Same thing happened. Nothing new under the sun. But that was our people enforcing that. That was our people saying, nah, we done with this. But now we cool with it. Like you have you ever had somebody that was Hispanic, right? And you expected them to speak Spanish? And we know that that's their oppressor's language, but
right.
you expect them to speak Spanish, and they're like, nah, I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
I speak English.
Mm-hmm.
I speak this, or I speak that. So they would impose their language, their religion, their economics, and other cultural practices. That's what colonism is. So the cultural practices will be what? The holidays, for one, the way they dress, the things that they eat. Why do we as a people have to deal with their holidays? Because that's the cultural practices that were forced upon us through colonialism. Why do we dress the way our oppressors dress? Because that's the cultural practices that were pressed upon us through colonialism. We got to get away from these things and get back to our natural heritage. The foreign administrators rule the territory in pursuit of their interests, seeking to benefit from the colonized region's people and resources. It is associated but distinct from imperialism. All right. So colonization of America was prophesied in the Bible. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. Brothers, get ready, because I'm going to ask y'all, just give me some scriptures that can further show colonization or colonialism in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So we're going to go to the 49th verse. We're going to discuss that briefly. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49 says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. So that's when the colonization started. You had the conquistadors that came over here, coming from Spain, coming from Britain, right? They're coming quick, swift as the eagle flieth. When they got over here, you didn't understand their language. You didn't understand English. You didn't understand Spanish. And when they got over here, they didn't show favor to your young sons, your young daughters. They didn't show favor to your old grandparents, your great-grandparents. They was killing, slaughtering, making them work, torturing them, doing all these things to them. They didn't show favor to them. Because what? They had to colonize these people, subdue these people, so they could use these people for their benefit, to build up their 13 colonies so that one day they would have enough economic stability, right? Enough churches established, right? They would have enough plantations established so they could say, you know what? Bye-bye, Britain. We don't want to be a part of y'all no more. We want to declare our independence, right? It says, verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee neither corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or the flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. So they will use all of our resources and destroy us. That's what happened to the Native Americans. That's what happened to, they took their cattle. They took all their livestock, right? They took their corn, their wine, everything that they had established over here prior, they took it all. Verse 52, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedest, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. So again, Native Americans, they had established big structures, palaces. And when the conquistadors came over here, what did they do? They had to besiege their gates. They had to tear down their walls so they could get in and destroy them. All right, so brothers, can y'all point to other curses in Deuteronomy 28 that describe colonialism or colonization? Now, understand the difference between typical slavery and colonization. I'm talking about when they come over here to our land, people was already established in the land, and then they set up shop. Who got some more scriptures? We're just going to stick to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, 15 verse on down. Any one or two scriptures within that just to describe it. All right, Shevis, what you got? Once you're ready, you can just unmute your mic and then let us know what you got. So again, we're looking for scriptures that kind of describe colonialism or being colonized.
I've got Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36.
Deuteronomy
The Lord
28.
shall bring thee and thy king which thou and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shall thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Now you said slavery, but you said colonization, right? Okay.
Hey,
Let me go back to verse 32, Deuteronomy 28, verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
All right, so that's a great scripture. They
Still
both
a little bit of slavery. But in 33, it says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always. That sounds like colonization to me.
Yeah, they both work, and even actually all three work. I'm gonna show you why. Verse 32, perfectly, because when they came over here, they took our sons and daughters to what? Like I said earlier, work on various plantations, right? They sold them here and there. They may have sold some back over there in Britain or wherever they was gonna sell them to, right? So we would have no might in our hand to take them back, to get them back. Wherever they wanted to take our sons and daughters to, that's what they would do. Verse 33, yes, the fruit of thy land, meaning we had grown crops up over here already. So they would come over here and take our fruit. And they were a nation that we didn't know. They're eating up all of our fruit, right? Because you got to think about the so-called white man. Their belly is never full, right? They're not going to you just give them a little bit, oh, here, sustain yourself. we probably was like, oh, think about it like this. Okay, say they came over here, right? And like in the Black Indians, they were sometimes dying of hunger, right? And we would give them food and things of that nature to help them out. They're not gonna just take a little bit; they're gonna eat a lot. So we're looking at an appetite that's uncontrollable. You looking at like, dang, we used to fasting, we used to eating a certain amount of times a day, but they just eating, right? They're gonna eat up all of our food. Now, the first verse you pulled, right? Verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. That can be used for colonization or colonialism as well, because they're coming over to where you already have a king established, taking that king, because remember, he's a ruler. If I know this person has influence over the people, I'm going to ship him somewhere else. So he's going to go over here to a whole nother country. So that happens in colonization as well. So those were good scriptures as well. Yakidin, you got anything? Anything in Deuteronomy 28 about being colonized of the indigenous people? Freezing. All right, so let's think about, you got Deuteronomy the 30 verse 37, because when they came over here, again, they had to change our nationality. They had to change our names, right? They didn't let us speak the language, our prior language. They had to change these things about us. They called us Redskins. They called us Negroes, Coloreds, Black, all these different names that they gave for us, right? Indians, right? Then you got verse 39, again, about planting vineyards. We already planted the vineyards when they got over here, right? We dressed the vineyards, we took care of it, but then they were going to destroy it and take it for themselves, all right? So just something to think about. When you go to through Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, you know, and you're studying these curses, just try to make, like, you know, different categories and say, okay, this one can sound like it's pertaining just to slavery. This one sounds like it pertains to colonization. This one sounds like it pertains to both. The reason why you want to be able to do that, brothers, is because it'll help you to be able to explain who the Israelites are based on the curses you read in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Because what you'll have, especially in the Israelite community, is you'll have people saying, you know, the Native Americans, they're not Israelites, you know, but you got to be able to say, no, the people that went through colonization are Israelites, because that's what the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, explain. All right. So just some scriptures. All right. So as those colonies were established, they had some key goals in mind. So we're going to talk about some key goals that the colonies had in mind. And I briefly mentioned them already. So one of them was economic stability. All right. So to create their own economic system of trading goods and services, the 13 colonies used slave laborers as the driving force behind their economy. All right. So slavery, when you look at Wikipedia, we don't got to get it, Yakin, in the interest of time. When you look at slavery, it was legal in the 13 colonies. All right. In most places, it involves house servants and farm workers. All right. It was of economic importance in the export-oriented tobacco plantations of Virginia and Maryland, and on the rice and indigo plantations of South Carolina. You had about 287,000 slaves were imported into the 13 colonies over a period of 160 years. All right. So they had slaves imported into the 13 colonies for the purpose of slavery to build up their economic system. All right. So again, another thing that they were looking for was religious freedom. They could practice whatever religion they wanted, and different colonies had different religions they allowed, and they would force the indigenous people to convert to their religion of the colonial area. And that's part of colonialism, as we learned. All right. Another thing that they wanted was self-governance. They could uphold and establish their own system of laws. These laws would benefit the citizens of those colonies and not the imported slaves or colonized indigenous people. Understand that. Those laws they set up didn't benefit the slaves that were imported, and it did not benefit the colonized indigenous people. All right. And again, another one was education. They established institutions of higher learning. Check this out, Israel. A lot of the Ivy League schools our peoples try to get into so bad today, Yakin. such as Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brown, they were established in these 13 colonies. The first blacks couldn't attend Harvard until 1850. So the first blacks couldn't attend Harvard until 1850. But even then, due to backlash from white students, it was rescinded. So they were going to let a few black students in 1850, but the white students weren't with it, so they pulled back. So again, learning the history of these prestigious universities that a lot of our parents want to send us to because they want us to do better, right, Yaquin?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the HBCUs, I don't go there. They don't got the name like Harvard. They don't got the prestige. They don't have the recognition. They're not giving you the proper education. But before I couldn't go there.
Right.
My great grandfather couldn't go there, but now you want me to go there?
Right. And the crazy thing about it is that there's nothing in this society that is not built off of your backs. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing that you can point to that you can say, okay, you know, slavery didn't have nothing to do with that. You know? Because you gotta just imagine this, you know, hundreds of years of you being in slavery means hundreds of years of them getting ahead of you.
Yep.
Hundreds of years of them using you to their advantage to just build, you know, institutions, banks, whatever, hotel chains, everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, those Ivy League schools, they have all this prestige, but they was built off of your forefathers and foremothers' backs. And even the HBCUs, you know, I mean, you know, although they're historically black colleges, they are owned by white people who were able to get in that position because of slavery.
Hey, and I'm glad you brought up that point as well, because a lot of HBCUs as well started out as those boarding schools that the Native Americans went to, and they converted them to HBCUs. So you got to learn history, you got to learn what's going on. But again, when it comes to those Ivy League schools, you got to think about it. It's about legacy, right? If they got grandparents, they could trace their lineage all the way back to the 13 colonies, and they established those things. They got, you know, their dining hall maybe named after their great-great-grandfather. How you think they're going to act when they see you black walk in there and they know that their family had slaves back in the day? They're going to treat you as beneath them. But you want to fit in, you want to be a part of the clique, you're going to try to act a certain way. So I want us to discuss, and we almost done, Israel. Thank y'all for, you know, tuning in and having feedback. I thank you brothers for getting on the Zoom and everybody making comments in the chat. The difference between, you know, the person who is celebrating their actual independence and you is, they were considered a citizen and you were only considered a denizen. Now, look up these two words so you can get a proper understanding of what they are. Now, don't get fooled when you look up the word denizen now, because they changed the definition from what it was originally equated to. I went back and found the one where it was originally equated to. So citizen is a legally recognized subject or national of a state or commonwealth, either native or naturalized. So they're legally recognized as a citizen because they're native to that land, or they're naturalized, meaning they were allowed naturalization, meaning, okay, I'm giving you the right to be a citizen. You see the wording right there, Yaquin? Because they know that they're not even native to this land. They're naturalized and they set up the laws. So then now everybody that's born in here will be considered native, so that if they're of my people, I'll give them citizenship, right? And we're talking about way back when, because you're saying, well, I'm a citizen now, Deacon Shema. All right. Okay, but remember what I said earlier about the law. Is worded a specific type of way, and if you don't understand the law, it can have ramifications to you. So let's look at denizen. A foreigner allowed certain rights in the adopted country. Sounds like those people that were imported over here as slaves. Now, Native Americans were given different rights than the average African American or African slave, if that's what you want to say. Because what? They were over here already. They were colonized. So yeah, they gave them reservations, and the life on the reservations ain't what it seems. It's bad. It's worse. It's really hard. But you say, oh, they got certain liberties. They got certain, you know, laws that were established for them. Okay. But if we're citizens, Israel, ask yourself this question. If you're a citizen, then why do we always have to fight for civil rights? Why is that a struggle that our people deal with? because you're not citizens. You were never considered citizens. You're denizens. Because if you were citizens, you're already legally recognized and subject to the national or state commonwealth. You're already going to be given those liberties, and those laws are already going to apply to you. But you're not considered a citizen. You're a foreigner, allowed certain rights. And whatever rights they don't allow you to have, you therefore got to fight for those. Hence, civil rights. Oh, you don't give me the right to vote? Well, I want a right to vote. So you got to fight for that. All right. So if we weren't given some of the most basic civil rights in 1776, why would we rejoice over our oppressors' Independence Day when we still in 2021 have to fight and beg for basic civil rights? We got to redo the voting rights every so often. We got to fight and beg for that. But you're a citizen. So we got to ask ourselves, are we really just a confused people? Are we really just confused? And if we are, we got to stop the confusion and make a decision. Either you're going to continue to celebrate the 4th of July, or you're going to stop because you understand the history. Now, I want to bring out a few things and we're going to end it. So some of our people, they're really up in arms about celebrating the 4th of July. They're getting ready, right? But then you had another group of our people who just got done celebrating Juneteenth.
Which are dumb.
Just got through celebrating Juneteenth, right? And now you about to celebrate July 4th. Well, Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, was the day the slaves in Texas found out that they had been emancipated 2 years prior in 1863. Right? They found out they had been emancipated. They found out that they were finally free. So we're going to celebrate Juneteenth. We're going to celebrate the emancipation of the black people. But then a few weeks later, you turn around and celebrate the Independence Day of the same people that put you in slavery. That don't make no sense. Choose one or choose the other, but don't do both. And then we won't be the wiser to think, well, dang, we celebrating our emancipation, and then we go celebrate how our colonizers got their independence off of the back and used slave labor to establish America. Well, maybe it's because you want to eat barbecue. Maybe you want to go to a parade, pop fireworks, go to a carnival, or simply just want a day off of work. Remember, these things are only a gift your oppressors give you to pacify your anger and frustration and to keep you docile and sleep. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. I got 2 articles, one more scripture, and we done. But just pay attention to these 2 articles that I bring out, and it's going to bow for you, Israel. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. So your oppression, if you're wise, it should make you upset. You should see the condition of your people, and it should be frustrating to you, right? But understand that gifts can destroy your heart. So those gifts we talked about earlier, those fireworks, those days off from work, that ability to barbecue, that can destroy your heart, meaning you don't understand or you don't care about the fact that America's independence was about the downfall of your people. It only perpetuated the downfall and the enslavement of your people. All right. So when we as a people, we try to ask for righteous judgment and justice, all they do is give us a gift that will pervert our way of judgment. So the reason why I say that is the Asians, they were going through their hate crime, right? What was that? How long did that last, Joaquin? A couple of months? It lasted a couple of months and they were getting killed. We don't even know they were getting killed like that. I think a couple of them may have died. But most of it was them getting beat up in the streets, right? And they got Joe Biden to sign into law an Asian anti-hate bill. So if we can go to that article, we're going to read through it. And I want y'all to pay attention to the wording in this bill. Oh, my gosh. It's kind of... Just watch. All right. Here's what the new hate crime law aims to do as attacks on Asian Americans rise. So you got all the Asians standing around Joe Biden, right? All of the Asians standing around Joe Biden and a couple of Edomites. But then they'll be like, hey, there's Kamala Harris right there too. But remember what I said, all the Asians standing around Joe Biden and a couple of Edomites, right? Following our overwhelming support from both chambers of Congress, President Biden signed legislation Thursday that addressed hate crimes throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. with particular emphasis on the increase in violence against Asian Americans. So you know why they threw COVID-19 in there? Because remember, Trump called it the Kung Flu. So they're equating that, okay, people are mad at Asians for the coronavirus, so they're abusing Asians. So we threw those two in there as there is an increase in Asian violence. At the event in the East Room of the White House, Biden thanked lawmakers for coming together to pass the legislation. He said standing against hatred and racism, which he called the ugly poison that has long haunted and plagued our nation, is what brings Americans together. So he's talking about hatred and racism. That's an ugly poison that has always plagued the nation of America, right? He ain't talking about for black people, because we still getting foots and knees in our neck, bullets in our back and our chest. Ain't no bills been signed for us. A couple of Asians get beat up over the coronavirus, and now they get a bill, anti-hate bill, right? Okay. My message to all those who are hurting is, we see you, and the Congress has said we see you, and we are committed to stop the hatred and the bias, he said. The legislation introduced by Representative Greg Ming, so the Democrat in New York, so I'm assuming that's an Asian Democrat, right? Okay, so that's showing you that people is lobbying for their own people, right? And Senator Mazie Hirono, again, another Asian, got some sense of power, Democratic of Hawaii, aims to make the reporting of hate crimes more accessible at the local and state levels by boosting public outreach and ensuring reporting resources are available online in multiple languages. It also directs the Department of Justice to designate a point of person to expedite the review of hate crimes related to COVID-19 and authorize grants to the state and local governments to conduct crime reduction programs to prevent and respond to hate crimes. So they got a whole system set up so that people could get quick responses to their hate crimes. It's not going to be delayed. It's not going to take a long time. They don't got that for us. Vice President Harris introduced Biden ahead of the signing and reflected on the increase in violence against Asian Americans. The violence, it did not come from nowhere, and none of it is new. In my life, my lived experience, I have seen how hate can pervade our community, said Harris, who is the first Asian American vice president. Whoa.
Whoa.
I told you.
Whoa.
That's why I said it was Biden, a bunch of Asians, and a few Edomites.
Oh my goodness. I know Jake is upset.
I thought she was the first black vice president.
That's what they thought.
That's what y'all thought.
But apparently they know something a little bit different.
Yeah, they know something a little bit different. So I'm going to read it again. Who is the first Asian American vice president? Added, I have seen how hate can impede our progress, and I have seen how people uniting against hate can strengthen our country. So, Yakin, I want to say one thing, and I want y'all to look and pay attention closely about what I'm about to say. The reason why, have you ever heard of the term where somebody, what's the term where they inconspicuous or ambiguous, where nobody can necessarily say what you are?
Yeah, ambiguous.
Yeah, ambiguous. You don't necessarily look like a black person. You don't necessarily look like a white person, or so on and so forth. They did that on purpose. If she would have been jet black, she would have not been y'all vice president. And I'm not saying anything against dark-skinned women. Y'all are beautiful.
Right.
But they understood that if she looks jet black, there's no way she has to represent one group of people. That's why she looks a certain type of way. You can say, oh, well, she's black. Because the Indians try to claim her. And I'm not talking about the Native Americans. I'm talking about the Pakistanis, the Indians.
Yeah, East Indians.
East Indians. They claim her. Right? Then you got black people that say, okay, well, she's black. Black people try to claim her. Now the Asian community is trying to claim her. Everybody's trying to claim. They lay claim to her. And she's going right along with it.
Yep. They did the same thing with Barack Obama.
Exactly.
That's why they put him in office.
If he would have looked like Wesley Snipes, he wouldn't have been president.
Never.
He wouldn't have been president. Y'all gotta wise up. Y'all gotta wise up. They do this to pacify y'all. And then y'all be like, oh, it is what it is. But y'all won't read this article and see that she's Asian. And y'all still hold on to that, oh, she's black. No. She's claiming the Asian. I'm just gonna say that. Well, they're claiming her. Anyways, I've seen how hate can impede our progress, and I've seen how people uniting against hate can strengthen our country. Harris noted the work in combat racism doesn't end with the signing of the bill. Here's the truth. Racism exists in America. Xenophobia exists in America. Anti-Semitism Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, and all exist. And so the work to address injustice, whether it exists, remains the work ahead, she said. All right. So again, they got a crime bill signed into law, but we ain't got nothing but Juneteenth. Let's put up the other article. We talked about a gift destroying your heart. New York Times. So the Asians made things happen because they were getting abused. One second. Biden signs law making Juneteenth a federal holiday. The law went into effect immediately, making Friday the first federal Juneteenth holiday in American history. Scroll down. On Thursday, President Biden signed legislation making Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in the United States, a federal holiday. The measure was passed in the House and Senate with bipartisan results. Washington, President Biden signed legislation on Thursday to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, enshrining June 19th as a national day to commemorate the end of slavery in the United States. All Americans can feel the power of this day and learn from our history. Okay? So now, you didn't get, check this out. All Americans. So this ain't even just for you. This is for all Americans. So you still didn't get something just for yourself. This is for all Americans. Mr. Biden said at a ceremony at the White House. Oh no, you get it right there. All right, right there. All Americans feel power on this day and learn from our history. Mr. Biden said at a ceremony at the White House, noting that it was the first national holiday established since Martin Luther King's birthday, 1983. So they gave you Martin Luther King's birthday in the 80s. What was going on in the 80s? The crack epidemic was going on in the 80s. Yep. They gave you Martin Luther King's birthday in the 80s, and that kind of calmed you down, right? And now in 2021, they gave you Juneteenth. Sound like these gifts that destroy your heart. He said signing into law that was one of the greatest honors he will have as president. So one of the greatest honors he'll have as president is giving you blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans another day to barbecue, throw picnics, have family time, and get a day off of work. Okay. He says signing the law was one of his greatest honors he will have as president. The law went into effect immediately, making Friday the first federal Juneteenth holiday. Public schools were closed on a moment's notice. You know why I think that he said that? Because once he's done being president, Yakin, and they be at the good, you know, the country club, they be at what's that with the what they be with them secret societies?
Yeah, the Grove or something.
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove. Yeah.
They could talk about the things they did. Yeah, I gave the Negroes Juneteenth. I gave him another day to shuck and jive.
Yep.
I pacified him with that one. He don't really care about y'all getting Juneteenth. Stop being fooled. Public schools were closed on a moment's notice. The Federal Office of Personnel Management announced that most federal employees would observe the holiday on Friday. Since June 19 falls on a Saturday this year, at the White House, officials canceled the daily press briefing and pulled down normal meetings for Friday. The NASDAQ stock market said U.S. markets, however, were expected to remain open on Friday. They said, I'm not shutting down the stock market. Yeah, I hear what you said, Joe Biden, but we're going to keep this money going. Y'all can do that. The Senate rushed the measure through with no debate this week after clearing away a long-standing Republican objection, and the House approved it on Wednesday by the vote of 415 to 14, with all of the opposition coming from the GOP. They already out here celebrating the 4th of July, and it ain't even the 4th yet. Throughout history, Juneteenth has been known by many names: Jubilee Day, Freedom Day, Liberation Day, Emancipation Day, and today a national holiday. Vice President Kamala Harris said, introducing Mr. Biden, she also signed the legislation in her capacity as the president of the Senate. Juneteenth commemorates the end of slavery in the United States. Its name stems from June 19, 1865, when Maj General Gordon, Granger, and Galveston issued General Order No. 3, which announced that in accordance with the Emancipation Proclamation, all slaves are free. Months later, the 13th Amendment was ratified, abolishing slavery in the final 4 border states that had not been subject to President Abraham Lincoln's order. So y'all can look at that article and read the rest of it. But I just wanted to show you the difference. You know, they'll give the Asians, an actual law that would send somebody to jail for abusing them. But we're being abused, tortured, killed, still in this country, and all we got was another holiday. Well, when we outside barbecue, Karen can come up, get on her phone, and call the police so you could be abused, tortured, and murdered. So I thank y'all for joining us. I appreciate the brothers hopping on the Zoom, giving their feedback. Again, I appreciate everybody on the YouTube and the Facebook, putting forth, their comments as well. So just wanted to do this class because I know, the 4th of July is coming up, and I wanted to give y'all another perspective so that any of y'all that was thinking about going to pop fireworks or going to the parade or going to your uncle's barbecue, just think again and understand that holiday was never for you to commemorate their independence, because it always meant your destruction. Got anything, y'all, King?
Nah, man, that's it. I think that was a great class. It's coming up 2 more days, man. So, we got to get our people in the right mindset. I love that you went over, the deaths of our people, and going over those names. It really makes it a lot more serious than a lot of our people would even think about. So
right.
All praises for that.
And again, I forgot to put his name in there, but Philando Castile, he was killed around the time of 4th of July, I think coming from a 4th of July party. So again, that right there should really, shake you up and wake you up to be like, their independence ain't nothing to celebrate, and for those of y'all that, if you're like, well, what do I celebrate then? I gotta, what is there for me to celebrate? Well, you celebrate the laws, statutes, and commandments and the holy days that God gave you. You got Passover, which is about our liberation from the Egyptians, and then our soon to be liberation from the hand of America. You can celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. You can celebrate the Feast of Dedication, also known as Hanukkah, about our forefathers, coming against, the Greeks and rededicating the temple back to the Most High after they defiled it. We have actual holy days that have actual significance behind them that we should celebrate. If you want a day of rest from work, every Saturday you get a day of rest. It's called the Sabbath day, which we getting ready to go into. We into now. No working, no buying, no selling. Rest. No cooking, so ain't no barbecuing on the Sabbath. But we got other days for that. You want to barbecue? Celebrate the new moon. Each month, when the full moon is in the sky, we have a celebration. Get together, we cook, we eat, we fellowship, and we have a good time in reverence to the Lord. So we got our own holy days to celebrate. Let's get rid of, these folly days of the other nations that really don't benefit us and have no meaning for us. All right. All right. With that, Israel, say shalom. Tune in to the Sabbath class. We got LDI King going over, the benefits of the law of Moses. Right. So you want to go about the commandments and what the benefit of the commandments is. So tune in. Share the class. All right, Israel, shalom.
Couldn't hear the first verse, cut the bass and up the treble. No longer bass, we excelling to a higher level. I hate to bust your bubble, but this level trouble doubles. Remove your pride and just remember to stay humble. Don't cry for spilt milk or how the cookie crumbles. Make sure to mouth the flow so you don't slip or stumble. Don't let the stress you under stop your hunger. And you can't skip the line, wait for the Lord to call your number. Be patient cause your tribulations only make you stronger. Get stuck in folly, then we only have to wait here longer. The world is yours if you prepare to go and conquer. God wrote the script and for this act he get an Oscar. I turn the corner, I really hope that I ain't lost you. Think about your stubborn mind and everything it cost you. The Lord's spirit overflowing, make sure your sins washed up. And if we stick to unity, ain't nothing that can stop us.
I'm just